Hey, 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 my name's Izzy. This is Rolling Virtual Cards, coming at you with another Commander deck build. Faramir, Prince of Ithilien, is the next one here. So for 2 white and a blue, you get a 3/3 legendary creature, Human Noble. At the beginning of your end step, choose an opponent. At the beginning of that player's next end step, you draw a card if they didn't attack you this turn. Otherwise, create 3/1/1 white human soldier creature tokens. So the way this works is simple. At your end step, you choose one of your 3 opponents. Then that player, then at that player's next end step. So if you choose the player going next, at the end of their turn, you draw a card. If they didn't attack you, if they attacked you, you get 3/1/1 white. 3/1/1 white human social creature tokens. So a lot of times, you can just choose the one who wouldn't be able to attack you, so that you can get a draw. But if you want the 3 humans, it can happen. Like, it's really a flip of a coin on whether or not it's going to happen. You'll usually know which one you're going to get. Both are very useful, though. And the reason you'd want to play this commander is because it is a fun Azorius like control. You're going to be able to control the field, stop your opponents from winning the game, and slowly gain card advantage. And that's the point of what you're doing here. With a little fun, like, what's the word? No, I forgot the word. Politics. With a little fun politics here in there, because like choosing which opponent should you choose? Do you make a deal with them? Like, hey, if you attack me, I really like those humans. Go ahead and attack me. Okay, yeah, I won't block the one you attack me with. Stuff like that. So let's change this view for a second. Spoiler. So first off, we have abilities. Abilities are just cards that help you get like a second trigger or get more of those abilities. So like something like Phantasmal Image comes in as a copy of another creature, and you're going to be able to get more abilities off of that, or a second ability off of that. Copy target triggered ability you control. So something like this, at the beginning of your end step, choose an opponent. Since this triggers at your end step, you can choose 2 opponents, getting both effects, which is good. Cackling Counterpart is another way to just get another ability of an opponent, because you make a copy. So if you copy Faramir and you have a way to make legendaries, not a problem. Something like Shakashima, or Mirror Gallery, or Mirror Box. Then you can make more copies of Faramir, and that effect will trigger. So at the beginning of your end step, choose an opponent. If you have 2, you choose an opponent. You can choose the same opponent. At the beginning of that player's next end step, you draw a card if they didn't attack you this turn. Otherwise, create 3. So if you have like 3 Faramirs, and you choose the same opponent, all 3 are separate effects. So if they don't attack you, you draw 3 cards. If they do attack you, you're gonna make 9 humans. You can also choose one of each of your opponents. Like, each of your opponents can get different things based off of it. So very strong. The more Faramirs you have, the more card advantage, the more creatures you can get to win the game. So that's where these guys are coming in. You're just making copies of your commander. This becomes a copy of your commander, copy of your commander. That becomes a copy of your commander that isn't legendary. Lithoform Engine, once you get your like non-legendaries, like legendary effect doesn't rule, this can make copies of your commander. Otherwise, you can just copy the triggered effect. You can copy your instant sorceries, so copying like Rite of Replication, kicked. You'd get the kick and you can make a lot of them. Shakashimas are here. This Shakashima gets the legend rule. Otherwise, they both just become copies of your commander with the same name still, so you don't have to worry about them dying. Vesuvian Diplomacy or Duplimancy is here because it's going to let you cast your like quasi-duplicate in your Vile Duplication, and then get another copy that's not legendary. So even if you don't have the non-legendary rule, at least that second one you get off of Vesuvian will be non-legendary, which is useful. Mirror Gallery, again, it's the same thing. It's just like get rid of the legendary rule. And Sublime Epiphany does give you that copy target creature you control, but you can also draw a card, counter stuff. Very useful card there. ETBs, again, not a lot. Spark Double is here. I don't know why it wasn't here. It should be in abilities. Give me a second. Change tags. Add the ability one here. Save. Because, yeah, it's going to copy abilities. Again, it doesn't need Shakashima or another legendary thing to work with your commander. And Suture Piece is the only other ETB here, just getting you life off of your creatures coming in and hurting your opponents if they come in. The life gain's not bad. You could probably run a few of the other Soul Sisters and stuff if you really wanted to, because that's going to really help you with that concept of... that's going to really help you with gaining life off of your creatures, tokens you get. So ETB enablers, you have the same thing, the stuff just enabling ETBs. Helm of the Host, again, just super useful in that regard. They're all the same. One extra thing is Jinkatex's Progression Tyrant, so Progress Tyrant. So it enters the battlefield, or whenever you cast an artifact into sorcery, you copy that. If it's an artifact, you get a second one. So that's going to double up artifact ETBs. Sorry, my cat is scratching at the door, or the wall and stuff. But yeah, getting double triggers off the instance and sorcery you cast, so you get another target with Vesuvian on the field, or you get another nice cloning effect, useful. And it's a stacks piece because it counters the whenever an opponent casts an artifact into sorcery, counter that spell. This ability triggers on the opponent's turn, which can stop your opponents. Ramp, Soul Ring taps for 2, Wayfarer Baubles grabs you the land, Arcane Signet taps for any color, Azuria Signet, you can pay 1 to tap for a white and a blue. A Deep Gnome Terramancer, whenever one or more lands into the battlefield under an opponent's control without being played, so like if they search for a land to put it on the battlefield, or if they, that's basically the way. Or if you have a card that says like put a land in your hand from the battlefield, not play an additional land, you can go search for a plane to put on the battlefield. Not the best. I find it kind of lackluster, although really good against fetch lands. Felwar Stone taps for any color your opponents can make. Mind Stone taps for colorless but can be sacked for a land. Thought Vessel taps for colors but gives you maximum hand size. No maximum hand size. Archaeomancer's Map, when it enters the battlefield, you can go grab 2 planes, and then whenever a land enters the battlefield under opponent control, if that player has more lands than you, you can put a land onto the battlefield from your hand to the battlefield. This works especially if you're going against like a land ramp deck. Command Sphere taps for any color, but can also be sacked for land or to draw a card. Monologue tax allows you to get treasure whenever the opponent casts their second spell each turn, which usually happens. And Smothering Tides either slows your opponents down or gets you treasures. Again, like untagged lands, like I always say, I really don't care about lands. I'm running 35 here. Whatever lands you like to run, go ahead. Sometimes I like Myriad Landscape, sometimes I don't. Really just depends about my feelings. 1 cantrip, Ponder. Cantrips are just 1-drops that draw you a card. This does allow you to like look at the top 3, put them back in the order. You can shuffle, draw a card. So, Suture Pieces is the only card that just deal damage to your opponents. Draw cards. Esper Sentinel here. We got 15 draw, which is pretty good, to be fair. Esper Sentinel here draws your cards whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, unless they pay extra or extra power. Mystic Remora is going to draw you a card unless they, whenever they cast a non-creature spell, unless they pay 4. And its cumulative upkeep is 1, so you have to pay 1 the first go around, and then 2 the next turn, and 3 the next upkeep. But usually you're going to draw cards off. If it's Skull Clamp, you are making tokens, especially off your commander. I think that's the only way you're making tokens, though, but that's a great way to draw cards. Archivist of Ogma will draw your cards off your opponent's searching and gain life. Fairy Mastermind will draw your cards off your opponent's drawing a second card, and you can also just Mana Sync it for each player draw a card. So actually, let me toss that on here, the Mana Sync, because it is a way to do something. And you can Mana Sync this on like your, like if you took your turn, boom, 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 the guy right before you, you can Mana Sync into that and just draw a bunch of cards. And your opponents have stuff, but you can have stuff. We want a Mind Stone and Command Sphere. Rhystic Study draws your card whenever an opponent casts a spell unless they pay 1. So either you're slowing your opponents down or drawing cards. Windfall will help you draw cards. Best to use when you have low cards in hand and an opponent has like 5 or more cards. Then you can draw a good amount of cards. Geth's Grimory will draw you a card whenever an opponent discards a card from his or her hand. And you might be questioning this, but I'll explain that in a little bit. Mangara the Diplomat draws you a card whenever an opponent attacks you with a creature. Whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if attacks you with 2 more creatures, or a planeswalker you control. or whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn. That's really what you're going to get. That second one doesn't happen too much. Mind's Eye, you can pay 1 whenever an opponent draws a card to draw a card. Consecrated Sphinx, you're going to draw 2 whenever an opponent draws a card. We win over Sublime. And Nezelheim, you have no maximum hand size. It can't be countered. And whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, you can draw a card. And you can discard 3 to exile and return the battlefield tapped, so you can keep it. But it's a very useful ability, so that your opponent you just draw more cards off of non-creature spells. Interactions here, like Offer, you can't refuse. Counters a non-creature spell and gives them 2 treasures, so it's good interaction and protects your stuff. Path and Swords are just gonna pop any instance or any or exile any creature. Swan's gonna counter an enchantment, instant sorcery, and then they get a bird. Arcane Denial will counter anything, and then they draw 2 and you draw 1 in the next upkeep. Counterbalance is great, so whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may reveal the top card of your library. If you do, counter that spell if it has the same mana value as the revealed card. Very useful. It is just 2 blue, even though there's 1. Counter spell is counters anything. Cyclonic Rift is going to just return a target non-land permanent to its own hand, or all non-land permanents your opponent's control. So a good wipe. Lightning Greaves and Swifter Boots protect your commander. Negate will counter a non-creature spell. Generous Gift pops any permanent but gives them a 3/3 to Fairies. Protection is going to just phase everything out and then bring it all back on your next turn so that they just can't be touched. It just protects you, including you. Like, all permanents you control phase out. And your life total can't be changed, and you gain protection from it. So it's just really good. We wonder that that portrays is really interesting in this extra. It has Annihilator too. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-creature permanent, put that card on the battlefield under you control. I just really like it. That portrays as a big creature. It's a nice big crunchy win. This could be any big 12 drop that helps you win the game. I just like it. That portrays because it's really annoying. There's a Monoseek. This is mill. You might wonder why Mind Crank is in here, but that's because whenever an opponent loses life, that player mills that many cards. It's a weird card, you might think, but like, you can slowly make your opponents mill out, which can be very useful. Protection-wise, we went over most of these, each one of them. And in stacks pieces, something like Authority of the Council, creatures your opponent throw into the battlefield tapped, and when a creature enters the battlefield under opponent's draw, you're going to gain a life. Linvala, each opponent can't cast non-creature spells with converted mana cost greater than the number of lands that player controls. So if they only have 3 lands, they can only cast 3 mana cards. And whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, count it. So, Suture Priest, we went over. Monologue Tax, we went over. Sunscorched Regents, technically a stacks piece, because it makes them think. It's a 5-drop for 4/3 with flying, and whenever an opponent casts a spell, you get a 1/1 counter, and you gain life. Wandering Archaic, whenever an opponent casts an instant sorcery, they may pay 2. If they can't, you get to copy that instant sorcery. Mind's Dilation is fantastic. Whenever an opponent casts his or her first spell each turn, that player exiles the top card of his or her library. If it's a non-land card, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. Very useful. And then there's your wipe. So the 2 cards you might be wondering, why are they in here? I'm so confused. Is the Mind Crank and the Geths. A Geth is in here just in case you're going up against a discard deck. Like, if opponent is playing discard, Geth is just actually very helpful in that regard. And it just draws you more cards. Kind of a weird one to run, but I like it in the deck because I've played against a lot of discard decks. And then the Mind Crank. I like milling my opponents, and it does something here in a fun way. So you don't need to run those. You can definitely replace them with whatever you want. Sometimes fun cards are fun. But overall, yeah, the point of this deck is just to make copies of Faramir, get its effects off a lot. Make your opponents choose if they want to let you draw like 3 or 4 cards because you have 3 or 4 Faramirs, or get like 9 to 12 humans, which is gross. So, really like the deck. Hope you enjoyed the concept. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.